Okay, straight up 8 o'clock, everybody. Here we go. Hey, we're in for a treat today, but before we do that, just want to say, look, guys, it is March 2nd today. March 2nd. You've been through January. You've been through February. Okay, and you know what? That's 2 months of the year. You got 10 more in front of you. This is the beginning of the third month, which is the last month in the first quarter. So I hope everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Before I mute you, let's hear you, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Everybody doing good? Good morning, Rick. All right, all right, hold on a second. Okay, now everybody knows why I muted. So look at this. We've got a great turnout already, and people are still coming in, and that'll happen for a while. Today, we are very lucky. We have Josh Hayes from the Sahara office in Nevada. Josh, why don't you hit *6 on your phone so we can hear you, please?
All right, can you hear me now?
Oh, perfect. Whatever you're doing, that phone sounds awesome. So, well, Josh, you know what? We had a wonderful awards little get-together last week, which you did well in. So let's do this. I think, well, you know what? I'm going to have you tell them. All right, so why don't we do this? I want you to introduce yourself, start off with how you finished last year, and then tell them a little history about yourself and how long you've been in the business and all that good stuff, if you could, please, Josh.
All right, sure, absolutely. As far as finishing last year, I finished last year pretty strong. I typically I work mostly with sellers. I'm primarily in the listing side by the nature of what I do, which we'll get into more later. But typically don't often have a lot of homes go on the market at the end of the year. But this is one of those years where I ran into a few sellers that needed to get on right away. And we got them closed in November, even December. And basically hit all my goals for 2019 and finished strong. So as far as getting into the business, I started in real estate 7 years ago in Wisconsin. That's where I was born and raised. And then I moved to Las Vegas in 2015. 2015, I was mainly doing referrals back to Wisconsin. Got licensed here in 2016 and then really started to take off here in Las Vegas in 2017.
All right, cool, Josh. And give them the exact numbers, like how many deals you did, what number. Like I know you were number 2 in your office for individual agents, but give them the specifics just so they know, like closings and all that good stuff.
Okay, sure, absolutely. 23 closings. I believe that was 19 listings, 4 buyers. 245,000 was my GCI. 8.4 million in sales. Average sale price was just about $365,000.
Awesome. And that puts you, what number did you finish in the total for the company at the end of the year?
I think for individuals, I think I was 13th, and for including teams and individuals, top 100, I was 57th.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was going to say 12th, but okay, 13th, perfect. Lucky 13th.
It might be 12. I didn't actually catch it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I said a lot of names that day. I went home that night still dreaming names in my sleep because, when you're up there calling them, it's like there's a lot of names. We have a lot of great agents.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So congratulations, my man. And the great thing about this is you haven't been in Vegas that long doing it yet. That's a tremendous gross income. Let's face it, we have 1,100 agents in Vegas, and to be in those numbers is awesome and a great tribute to you. So good job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So now let's get into the nitty gritty, because one of the exciting things about this is this isn't exactly the way I talk about it, but there's so many ways to do this business. And that's why I'm so excited to talk to you today. So give them a little idea of how you do it. Almost all your business was listing sold and you had some buyers. So take them through your process of what you do, please.
Yeah, definitely. In Wisconsin, what I did was entirely different. That was my home state. Obviously had a bigger sphere of influence. Pretty much worked that when I was there, and kind of rose to around the level I'm at right now in around the same period of time there. But when I came here, I didn't know anybody, and it was basically starting over from scratch. rebuilding from the ground up, and I had to find an entirely different way to do my business here because I really didn't have that sphere of interest to call on. And basically, I just, did kind of what I did in the beginning in Wisconsin, which was just try everything. Just see what works. I tried doing open houses here, had a little bit of success with that. But what really started to make things take off for me here was Las Vegas has an unusually high number of people who own property here and live elsewhere. And that wasn't something that existed in Wisconsin. But when I saw how many people from Wisconsin owned real estate here, I started mailing letters to them. And I think I mailed my first letter to my home state in late June of 2017. And by, I think, 2 weeks into July, I had 2 on the market from Wisconsin owners. And so that was, I guess it's entirely different from what I did in Wisconsin, but it kind of took off pretty quickly, and I just kind of started to work off that, and then I just started doing the same with, any out-of-state owned property. Didn't have to be from my home state, Wisconsin, just had to be, out-of-state owned, absentee owned. There's just going to be a greater chance that someone who lives out-of-state, doesn't live here, maybe uses this Vegas property as an investment or a second home or a vacation home. Just going to be a lot greater percentage of those people that are going to be selling at any given time than someone who's living in the house year-round here. So basically just started targeting absentee owners, and it's taken off from there. I get my buyers from my listings, essentially. I do a lot of advertising on my listings. And, my buyers are pretty much people who either, purchase my listing. I've done a couple that dual agency, but mostly people who had me to help them tour one of my listings and then weren't necessarily interested, but still wanted to work with me. So and that's because I really don't know many people in Las Vegas. My buyers are not coming from people I've even really gotten to know just living here. It's mainly just meeting them through my listings. So, yeah.
Yeah, and because of the nature of the way you're doing it, which is, getting absentee owners, they're not going to sell and buy from you 99% of the time because they're just going to sell, but you attract your buyers by having those listings and then obviously being a professional and help them get what they want. So great. Now, the other thing you said also that is interesting is that even though in Vegas we already have a tremendous turnover rate, it's almost, let's call it 9%, 8.5%, 9% on average. The turnover rate for the absentee owners is even better, is what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, and I don't even have the numbers to back it up. I have it, I guess, in my sales, but it's just kind of logically, if you think about it, a home that's not being used year-round is much more likely to, a person's going to come to that moment where they decide it's time to sell, as opposed to a home that people are living here, plan on living here their whole life. They have kids in school here, their jobs here. They're living in the house year-round. Anything that's used, more sporadically, I guess, is going to be much more likely to, that day is going to arise much more often and more quickly that it comes time to sell. So,
yeah. So I'm just going to guess, and I'm sure you could get these from the title company too, but I would guess it's probably at least 50%, maybe even twice the turnover rate because of everything you just said. Plus, and maybe you can help me with this one, I'm going to guess that with the market going up as much as it has, especially in the last 3-4 years, that if they've owned that property for at least 5-6 years, they've had a decent amount of appreciation, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's pretty safe to say, it's probably twice the rate. And when you see the market emphasize this kind of in the letters I send, is whenever I'm sending those letters and we're really starting to see quicker or less days on market and activity really picks up, it definitely gets people's attention. Sometimes people are receiving my letters and they're sitting on the sidelines and they're thinking about doing it, but when they start to hear that the market's really taken off, I do definitely hear quicker response. I've had people who have had one of my letters for 1, even 2 years, and they've been holding on to it. And then they might receive another one from me, and just either the reminder of getting another letter from me, or just hearing something new about the market that strikes their interest or lines up with their motivations, and suddenly I hear from them. So yeah, it definitely helps when the market's going well, for sure.
Absolutely. And okay, so my next question is, do you focus on, like, okay, so you're mailing out letters, so I would call this like a really, a really descriptive farm. I would call it it's a demographic, but it might be geographic too. So that's what I'm saying to you is, do you focus on a certain area, a certain property, a certain number, or a little of all of that?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix. So just to have a starting point, if I have nothing to go off of previously, such as a recent sale in an area, I'll just pick zip codes. I'm trying to limit my, travel as much as possible. So I start out in the Summerlin area where I live, and then, but it takes me all over town. So I do end up in, Henderson. There's a community called Tuscany Village on the far east side of Henderson, where I had a Wisconsin seller 2 years ago contact me. So basically, when I'm mailing to the whole state of Wisconsin, it's kind of random luck where the response comes from. And so that one came, and it was a really great sale and a real good price. So I obviously mailed at that point, I then mailed to all of Tuscany Village to talk about that sale, which led to 2 listings. Then I sold those 2, and I did it again, which led to 2 recent ones again. So in that sense, I kind of get taken where the initial listing takes me. So if I have someone from Wisconsin contact me anywhere in town, and then it's a good sale and it's definitely a place worth promoting that success, I could end up, there constantly. So Tuscany Village is almost the exact opposite side of town for me, but right. I'm doing enough, there's definitely been enough success there to keep going back. But yeah, otherwise, the initial starting point is just, targeting a segment, and then, and then going through maybe a zip code. I've started to contact Equity Title and get lists where, at a cutoff for estimated value, I'm trying to raise my sale price again. I did that last year. I'm trying to do that again this year, where I would love to do even more closings, but if I also just do the same 23, 24 closings again in 2020, but at a higher sale price, I'll increase my, my GCI. So
that's smart. And the market's going to help you a little anyway, because our average sale price is going up. But now, you said a bunch of good stuff there. Number one is, for a lot of our agents, is you drive. A lot of them, they don't like driving. It's really weird to me, being from New England and then spending so much time in San Diego, where my marketplace, I could drive, from one listing appointment to another for an hour, and you're doing that. Probably 45 minutes is what you just described. Okay, even in traffic. So the key is, Las Vegas is not, even Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, everything together is not a gigantic marketplace. You can drive it easily. So I think that's very smart. Now tell us about your numbers. What kind of numbers are you servicing as far as, how many people are you sending out letters to in an average month?
Right now, so these lists that I get from Equity Title have they have 7 homes per page. I mail out for each individual mailing is 25 pages worth. So it ends up being around 150 when there are some that are bad addresses, or they're out of country, or it's hard to tell from the entry who the owner is. It ends up being about 150 per, and I do 4 mailings a week. So I'm mailing about 600 letters a week, and so about 2,400 letters a month. And I don't have it was something like 15,500 letters I sent out last year, which I'll either meet or exceed that this year.
Okay, good.
And that's one of the reasons why I have to spread it around, because that can actually get quite repetitive. So it actually is somewhat a good thing if I just mailed to Summerlin all year round, these people would just be constantly getting letters from me. So that's why when I have success in a place like Tuscany Village, I've had a lot of recent success in Sun City Anthem Highlands. Again, those are far, but like you said, this is nothing compared to most cities. And I think that even a good point to make with buyers, a lot of people who have lived in Las Vegas their whole life think anything over 15 minutes is a long commute, and most people in this country are used to, And we could build all the way to Prim, and that would still be a shorter commute than a lot of people around this country are used to. So, it's not a bad thing. If you've worked in other places or lived in other places, it's not a big deal to drive 20 miles to Henderson or wherever you are. It anywhere in this town from one end to the other is not that bad compared to most places.
Totally agree. And what you're doing is really smart. It's not too expensive. Although I'm not gonna beat you up about the money, but what or ask you, because that's probably I would say that and it sounds like what you're doing is okay. So you get success in an area. Are you then converting into like a just listed or a just sold card as well in that area to maximize what you're already doing in there?
It's the same thing. It's a letter, but yeah, absolutely. Everything I've done since I started in both Wisconsin and Las Vegas is capitalize on any success, no matter how big or small. So when I have a good, not just a good sale, I mean any sale. First of all, everything I list sells. I don't have expireds. So as soon as it sells, I'm getting that neighborhood the new updated list from Equity, and I'm mailing out right away. So I'm closing on one today in Sun City Anthem, and I'll be getting a list from Equity today of probably not just out of state owned. It'll be everyone, because there's neighbors around that house who have already asked about, hey, wow, it was one of the places we were able to put up a sign. I was able to put the pending sale sign up, 2 days after the sign went up, and neighbors were asking my sellers about me, and they're not out of state owners themselves. They live there year round, so I don't want to just reach the out of state owned homes in that area. I want to reach everybody. So it'll be a pretty big list, and like I said, mailing out 600 letters a week, I should be able to get through that within, depending on the size of the list. I can usually get through a list sometimes as quick as a week, and sometimes months. But I'll work off that list for a good period of time here coming up, just to let everyone around there know. And it's not the first one either, so I'm going to mention not only this sale, but the recent previous ones as well. That's how I got this listing that's closing today, was from the last one I sold in Sun City Anthem. So yeah, it's capitalizing immediately on that success. So
yep. And that's such a great idea. I used to do the same thing. Anytime I primarily focused on just listed, just sold calls, which is you're doing basically the same thing except in mailing, expired. But anytime I sold, especially when I sold it, listed it was nice, but when I sold it, I immediately got in the phones calling all the neighbors, and you're just doing it by mailing, which is same thing. You're just doing it a different way. But so yeah, which is great, and I'm sure you're getting a decent return. But tell us now, I just want to know, like, your first initial letter you send out to an absentee owner. Just give us a gist of the idea of what it says, please.
Yeah, when I first decided to start mailing out, Equity was kind enough to send me a template, and it was pretty basic, and I just wanted to personalize it a little more. And so when I was sending to Wisconsin, the whole emphasis of that was I thought people from Wisconsin who might not know anybody in Las Vegas might like the idea of having someone in Las Vegas who's from Wisconsin. And that's kind of what the emphasis of my letter was. So my letters change constantly. It's always telling the story of what's going on. So, the letter's going to kind of spell out my process. With out-of-state owners, what I found they really liked hearing, especially when they tell me, what got these people. First of all, these people get a lot of letters, even the out-of-state ones. So that's not uncommon. But they say that what stands out about mine is, I guess I'm really hitting on the things that are their greatest concern. And the way I thought about it when I first started sending it out is, if I lived thousands of miles away and I had this property that's just sitting in Vegas, barely used, what would be my concerns about selling it? And I was thinking people would be worried that, I'm going to have to come in town, I'm going to have to fix the place up, I'm going to have to pour a bunch of money in, I'm going to have to find contractors to fix things, update things, clean it up. I really don't want to deal with that hassle right now. So I tell people I work with my own crew of handymen, and sometimes I'm literally doing certain things myself as far as cleaning their property or staging it. And that was a big relief off a lot of people's shoulders to get that in a letter. Awesome. I've had people that have just mailed me their keys and I've never met. And I get the keys, I go in, get it cleaned up. These people, sometimes they come in 1 or 2 weeks a year, and so their stuff is out on the counters, and like they're living there. And I've even boxed up a few things for people just to get it looking good and make sure that they're not sacrificing anything. Because a lot of people here, if you're here, you're living, you're in control of that. You can get the property ready for the market, and to a lot of people living out of state, that's kind of too daunting, or it's just something to keep putting off. Whereas I give them the assurance I'm going to take care of those things and get the things that fixed. And I'm a minimalist, so I'm only doing what is really necessary. I'm not having them do any kind of massive remodeling or anything like that. It's just to make sure the property is looking good. Yeah. So that's what my letter really details. What's that?
I was going to say, So what you're doing is you're basically telling them, don't worry about it. Let me take over, and I'm not going to spend a lot of your money, and we're going to get it sold. And like you said earlier, you don't have a lot of expired listings, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about I was really identifying probably what their biggest concern would be. I think one of the lines I often use is just living out of state does not mean that you cannot sell top market, even if you don't even, come into town yourself, because we'll get it looking the way it needs to. And, it's just taking out maybe an assumption that might be in the back of their head that's actually not true. It's definitely something that's very manageable to do. Yeah.
Well, when they're dealing with a professional like you, and that's, you give them comfort by saying, look, I know what I'm doing. I'll take over. I'll get your property sold, and I'll take all the, the responsibilities of the things that need to be done without spending a truckload of your money. So it's got to be attractive to them as well. Awesome. And I love what you said about equity too, because I know a lot of our agents don't understand what kind of tools and assistance. You're talking equity language too, which is really, you've mentioned just in the fact that since we've been talking, 3 different types of farms. So, which is really good. Absentee owners, you've got demographic, and you've also got geographic, and you're making them all work in harmony, which is, I believe, part of why you're getting such success doing it.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So I have to ask you this question because this is a question I finish every one of my interviews. By the way, this has been extremely educational for some agents out there. I can already sense it. But okay, so you're starting over, or you wanted to go to the next level? What would be the 3 most important things, Josh, you would tell them that they need to focus on?
All right. Well, since I've now had to do this twice in entirely different ways, I definitely feel like I got 3 good answers for this. The first one would be to experiment and try everything. That's what I had to do here. I didn't know a single person. So I know everybody, by trying different things, you find your strengths. I never mailed out letters in Wisconsin. It just wasn't a part of my business there. I tried open houses. I have some good ones. I know there are people much better at it than me. There's people who are great at phone calling. Try everything. I still experiment with stuff all the time because I'm always trying to expand my business, and I'm trying to find other things that I'm good at. So just keep on trying different things. Number 2 would be, this is probably the biggest thing I do with these letters, is tout every success. It's a lot easier to do now when I can send out the letters saying that I just sold the house in one day. That's great. But I had pretty much the similar results from touting other things. So when I first started sending these letters, I maybe even talked about how at an open house I had 30 people show up. You know, you can tout anything. And that's pretty much what you have to do when you start in this business is tout every single thing, no matter how big or small you think it is, and then that keeps growing. So it's really the way to sell yourself and to stand out is to tout anything. I always say, kind of joke that I call myself an award-winning realtor, and I first started calling myself that based on an award that was sitting on my desk in my office. So closed units, or I can't remember what it was, but just tout yourself. And then the last thing would be when you hit a goal, set a new one, and just keep doing that. I think maybe at some point I'll hit a goal where I feel satisfied and I'm just ready to maintain that level, but I really don't think that's anytime soon. Every time I hit a goal, I just set a new one that I think is within my grasp, and then just keep going after it.
Those are awesome. Those are very awesome. And you know what? I love the diversity of it too. Try everything, and you'll seep into what fits your personality. Okay,
Yep.
Tout your own success. All three of those are absolutely fabulous. Is there any final thoughts you want to leave them with today, Josh?
I guess don't ever get down on yourself. In real estate, you have things out of your control that are going to happen on a weekly basis. Buyers cancel for no reason, and then the next week, the good things are going away. But you just got to stick to it. It's really one of those things where the biggest, aspect of success is this time and sticking with it. If you stick with it and you put the time in, the results will come, as long as you're able to withstand ups and downs. But in the long run, there's definitely more ups and downs. Right, exactly.
Don't ever give up. Wow. Okay, so this has been incredibly insightful, and I would just say that, what you're talking about there is what I kind of call the rock star mentality. And even, some people say, well, listen to Josh. He's so smart about this. He's thought about it. He's done the analytics. And, and that isn't for everybody, but that's the way you did it, which I think is really smart. You're taking all those turnover rates into consideration. That's why it's working so well for you. Now, in California, what you're doing wouldn't give quite the same results, but the average sale price would, in some cases, triple. So it would still make sense. So it doesn't really matter where you are. Doing what you're talking about makes perfect success, and you're taking all these. I love the way you send out, and then when you sell one in the neighborhood, then you immediately turn that into, just listed and just sold cards in this or letters in the same area, and you have your niche for what's working, which I think is fabulous. And you're open, obviously, to making changes and getting better as it goes along. So, Josh, thank you very much. Congratulations on your success. You are an award-winning real estate agent, and congratulations on last week. And thank you very much for taking 30 minutes of your time today to do this interview, man. I really appreciate it, and I know everybody else on the call does as well.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
All right, my man. And everybody else, thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. And everybody else, we'll do this again in a week. You guys are the best. Keep rocking. Have yourself a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye, Josh.
Bye-bye.